Hi there, welcome back. We are on lesson 1.4. We're going to look at square roots and cube roots today. So it's page 28. Okay, so here is a square root. So when you're square rooting a number, you're thinking what number times itself equals that number in the radicand sign. So basically, the square root of 4 is 2 because 2 times 2 equals 4. So the square root of 4 is 2. You're thinking of basically what number do you square and get that number inside. Now, the cube root of a number is what number do you cube to get that number inside. And the cube root looks like this. There's a little 3, and we call that the index number. So this is saying what's the cube root of 125. So basically, what times what times what is 125? And that is 5. So if you take 5 and you multiply it by itself 3 times, if you cube 5, you get 125. So the cube root of 125 is 5. Okay, so now on your calculator, folks, so I'm looking at page 29 right now, but let me show you on your calculator. So on this calculator, if you can see, here's the square root sign. It's in blue, so I have to hit the second button and this x squared button to activate the square root sign, but the cube root sign is this one. See, I don't know if you can see that very well. It has a little x as the index number, meaning you can make that, you can find any root of a number, but you have to actually, so if you're going to find the third root, you have to actually hit the 3 first. So see how the 3 pops up on my screen? Then I'm going to hit the second button. Then I'm going to hit that square root button with the little x as the index. So basically, I'm telling the calculator I want to find the third root of, let's do 8. And then that's 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. If I multiply 2 3 times. Okay, now on your phone, folks, if you just Google calculator, the cube root sign is not going to show up. So you need to Google. So look, you need to Google scientific calculator. So can everyone see that okay? You need to Google scientific calculator, and what's going to pop up first is the Desmos scientific calculator. You want a scientific calculator. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it this way so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so now this is your square root sign. This is your cube root sign. So see how it has a little n for the root sign? That's the one you want to choose. So if you punch in that, then see how I can type in whatever root I want. So I'm going to hit a 3. So now I'm telling it find the third root of, let's do 8 again. So I click on the little box and I'm going to type in 8. So the third root of 8 is, so if you look right here, it actually, you don't even have to hit equals. It shows you right here. The third root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay, so let's try that again. So again, if I want to find the third root, a cube root, I hit that and then I'm going to tell it I want the cube root, push a 3, and then let's find the cube root of 27 this time. So the cube root of 27, so it's 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, okay? So you need to use a scientific calculator, and you can use the Desmos scientific calculator. Okay, so let's take a look at the top of page 29. Okay, so now this is a cube. It's a 3-dimensional square. So if it's a cube, you just look at the shape. If it's a cube, you're going to cube root your volume. And so the way you can tell that this is going to be 2 is because this length is 2, this width is 2 units, and this height is 2 units. Length times width times height. So because we do 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8, the cube root of 8 is 2. Okay, now this is a square. So that means you're going to square root the area. So the square root of 16 is 4 because 4 times 4 equals 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. That means each side, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each side is 4 units long. So 4 times 4 is that area. So just square root it if it's a square. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. Would you classify the number 169 as a perfect square, a perfect cube, both, or neither? Well, if it's a perfect square, then when I square root it, it'll be a whole number. So the square root of 169 is 13, so it is a perfect square. But if I cube root it, if it's a perfect cube, it should be a whole number. But if I cube root 169, I get 5.5287. I get this long decimal. So it's not a perfect cube. It's only a perfect square number, because 13 times 13 is 169. Okay, let's try this one. Let's take a look at this one. The volume of a cube is 512 cubic inches. What's the length of each side? Well, folks, because it's a cube, we're going to cube root this number. So plug that into your calculator. The cube root of 512 is 8. So each side is 8 inches long, because 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. Okay, let's take a look at this one right here. So this is a square chip. So because it's a square, we're going to square root that. The square root of 25 is 5. So each side of this chip is 5 centimeters, because 5 times 5 is 25. That's a perfect square. And that's a perfect cube, because we got whole numbers. Okay, now would you classify the number 200 as a perfect square, a perfect cube, both, or neither? Well, let's square root it and see if it's a perfect square, and then let's cube root it and see if it's a perfect cube. So the square root of 200 is a big, giant, long decimal, so it's not a perfect square. The cube root of 200 is another big, giant, long decimal, so it's not a perfect cube. So it is neither. It's neither. Okay, let's keep going. Take a look at this one. Folks, what shape is this? It says volume, so I know it's a 3-dimensional. So this is a cube. So since it's a cube, we're going to cube root the volume. So let's find the cube root of 1. The cube root of 1. Well, isn't 1 times 1 times 1 equal to 1? So the cube root of 1 is 1. And that means each side is 1 foot long. 1 foot long, 1 foot long, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, let's just do a couple more. So I am on the back side. I'm on page 30 right now. Let's take a look at this one. At the very top, number 14. So it says Mrs. Drew wants to build a square sandbox with an area of 121 square feet. Well, because it's a square, then you're going to square root that. So the square root of 121 is 11 feet. That means each side is 11 feet. But this is what it says. What is the total length of wood Mrs. Drew needs to make the sides of the sandbox? So look, if there's all 4 sides and each side is 11 feet long, then the total length of wood that she needs, you add all 4 sides. So 11 plus 11 plus 11 plus 11, she needs 44 feet of wood, okay? Okay, let's take a look at one more. So these ask... which statements are true? Select all that apply. So then if it's a perfect square, then square root that and see. The square root of 49 is 7. So, okay, that's a perfect square. Good. 9 is a perfect cube. Well, let's cube root it. And there is no number times